Hey guys, today is the 21st of August, um, 2014. I wanted to make a video today because I've had this question a bit today, this week, um, on Tumblr, but also from a few people in real life. And the question was asking me how did I knew that I was trans. And I've sort of been thinking a lot about it today, and I thought I would, share how I kind of came to that decision, that conclusion. It definitely wasn't waking up one morning and being like, oh, that's what it is. It took a long time to come to that realization. Looking back, there are definitely signs I can think of in my childhood and my past that make a lot more sense now. But at the time, I wouldn't necessarily have thought of them as me realizing it. I think there was a lot of denial and also a lot of just confusion because I didn't know what it was for a long time. I didn't know that there was an option to transition. I sort of thought that this is the body that I was in. I wasn't happy with it. I wasn't comfortable with it. But I would make it work because, like, what else do you do? I thought that I was gay, that I was a lesbian. That's why I felt different. That if I lived my life that way, that I would be comfortable. But even after coming out as gay, it was like it wasn't quite right. There was still something sort of missing, but I really didn't know what it was. So originally, how I found out about transgender people was on YouTube, which is a lot of the reason I started making videos, because there's not heaps of non-binary stories on here. And originally I was researching something and it came up in my feed. You know how YouTube recommends you might like this. I think I might have been watching something about gay rights and gay marriage or something, and something popped up about trans rights, and I clicked on it and I started watching people's stories. And first off, it was some of those like kind of famous stories of trans people in the media, and I looked in them and I was like, oh, this is really interesting. I don't really know much about this, and I feel like I should, because being part of the LGBTQIA community, I kind of realized I didn't know about a lot of people that are part of this community. So I started watching a lot of things, and at the time, I told myself I was just really fascinated with these people's stories because they were so interesting, and I thought, wow, these people show so much courage and bravery, and wow, they're living their lives really authentically, and this is amazing. And so it would have been 7 or 8 months of me, like, every single evening coming home from work, just like watching all of these stories. I've watched so many people's stories. I just found it fascinating, and I told myself it was a fascination. And then I found myself researching kind of strange things about how to reduce my breast size, because I've always felt really uncomfortable around my chest. And instead of watching these stories of people being themselves and doing things to make themselves feel happy in their own body, I guess I started thinking a lot about my own body and what that meant and what I wanted. And I guess for the first time I acknowledged that maybe this wasn't the body that I wanted or that I felt right in. And I tried really hard not to think that. I really didn't want to go down this path, not because I think there's anything wrong with being trans, but just because I'd watched so many stories and realized how difficult the process was, and how life altering it is. And I am a person that's very set in their ways, and I don't deal with change particularly well. I have really bad anxiety, and one of my biggest triggers for anxiety is change and difference. And when things change suddenly, even if it's for the good, I find myself getting a little bit anxious. I really like steady, consistent things in my life. So I wasn't really ready to go through this kind of change. And I also didn't really think that I felt male. I felt that I really didn't agree with this whole I'm a woman thing going on. And I felt really uncomfortable about my breasts. And I've always felt really uncomfortable about being addressed in a feminine way. And because of the way I speak and the way that I look, I've always sort of feel that I've been very feminized by people around me in my life, in varying ways. So I was watching these sort of FTM things and being like, wow, I really connect to this story. I really kind of, part of me is ringing true with me, but it's still not quite right. It's kind of like being a lesbian sort of felt pretty much right, but just not quite there. Like there was something else. It wasn't quite that. Same with watching lots of FTM videos. I was like, yeah, it's kind of what I'm feeling. It's kind of reflecting a lot of how I felt in my past and about feeling uncomfortable hitting puberty and like feeling uncomfortable in this body, people using feminine pronouns for me. I've always felt that kind of way about it, and I've always just not realized there was another option and just kind of decided that I'd deal with living in a female body and try to make it work as best that I could. And then realizing there was another option, it really kind of, the idea really stuck with me. And then I eventually came across some people's videos that were genderqueer, that were non-binary people. And there isn't heaps of them, but the ones that I watched were just like, I know people always have to see that movement, but they realize they're trans, but I was like, when I watched those particular videos and people being like, explaining what genderqueer meant to them, it was like a light bulb moment. And I really then realized that that's what I wanted. And I wanted it more than I had ever let myself feel, because I didn't know that it was an option. But once I realized that there was a possibility to live my life in a different way, I knew from then that my life was irrevocably different. And it has been. It wasn't as easy as seeing that and then coming out. I'm still not out to everybody in my life. I'm in the process of trying to write a coming out letter to my extended family and people that I haven't told, because again, with social anxieties, I'm not really good at talking about personal issues. I've told my mum and my dad, my stepmom and my stepdad, and one of my siblings, and my friends, most of my friends. So a large portion of people in my immediate life know, but there's also people that I don't, and I need to tell, because it's getting to the point where if I don't soon, I think people will be very offended. And it's not because I don't trust or love these people, it's just I find it really difficult to talk about, which is something I need to get over, because I'm thinking very strongly about hormones at the moment, and obviously if I want to go on hormones, I need to be respectful and let people know in advance so they can get their head around it. So yeah, this is sort of as usual, a long-winded video of how I knew I was trans and how I knew I was non-binary. And looking back, I look now back at my childhood, and a lot more things make sense. Like, I remember always having this kind of longing towards boy clothes and being annoyed and frustrated and uncomfortable if I was made to wear feminine clothes. I was very lucky. My parents never really forced any kind of gender roles on me. Mum was talking the other day about how there was this one summer where all I wore was navy blue t-shirts and checkered shorts for the whole summer. And someone had said to my mum, don't you care that she's wearing? And Mum's like, she likes them. It's fine. So they were never like, wear pink shoes, wear dresses or anything like that. So I was very lucky in a lot of ways, but there was definitely elements in my life where I was, put into a female role. When you're socialized as a girl, that's what happens. And I do remember feeling an extreme amount of distress and discomfort around that. And also puberty. I thought that everyone felt that way going through puberty. I didn't realize that I was actually going through the wrong puberty. Because now when I look at the idea of going through male puberty, that sounds like exciting and what I want. And even though there's elements of that I don't want, like acne, and I'm terrified that I'll go bald and all those kinds of things. In general, that just feels so right. Where growing breasts and getting my period, and I did all those things really young as well. Like I went through puberty very early, and it was all just really quite distressing. And yeah, so this is a very long video. I'm gonna wrap it up. But that is my yeah, how I knew I was transgender. I hope that answers the question for those people that have asked me this week.